Welcome back. We are delighted to have Mr. Hendrik Louw, who is with the Northern Cape Economic Development Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, join us today. As the NCEDA participates at the Global African Hydrogen Summit, we discuss exploring the exciting opportunities for hydrogen investment in the Northern Cape province of South Africa. The Northern Cape, with its rich natural resources and strategic location, is poised to become a significant player in the green hydrogen sector. We also talk about potential partnerships and collaborative efforts with neighbouring countries, particularly Namibia, to further enhance regional development and sustainability. Hendrik, good evening and welcome to the Daily Roundup.
Evening, Nina, and to the viewers, thank you very much for the privilege.
And welcome home.
Welcome home, absolutely.
Hendrik, to start with, perhaps you can provide just a brief, overview of the NCEDA, its mission, of course, and, promoting economic development within the region.
Absolutely. As the Northern Cape Economic Development Agency, we're fairly young. We started up in 2010. Our purpose is definitely looking at how do we improve the Human Development Index, the quality of life, how do we improve the Gini coefficient, the equity in our economy, and we know the catalyst for that is economic development. Our vision is definitely to utilize industrialization, and when we look at our mission and we can pull it through, is that we utilize our natural resources, and we know that we share that as a region. Northern Cape Economic Development Agency, NCEDA, actually in isiXhosa meaning helping hand. Our purpose and our vision and mission then is to use that natural resources of agriculture, minerals and energy, and we know it's a regional base at the end of the day to industrialize us as a region and to take that forward.
Fantastic. How does NCEDA see, the Northern Cape positioning itself in the global green hydrogen market?
Crucial for us is we see it firstly not in isolation. The Northern Cape is 33% of South Africa's landmass, nearly the size of Germany. But we do know that it takes a far bigger effort because ultimately green hydrogen is a tremendous market. The tonnage volumes that we saw today at the conference, and kudos out to Namibia for hosting a brilliant African hydrogen conference. We are really seeing that demand is so big that we have to start looking at Central and Western SADC region to be able to supply it. Very important is we must also reach price margins and volume margins and quality margins. In isolation, single players will not make it work. So therefore, we see Namibia, Angola, Botswana, South Africa coming strong into play. And in South Africa, as we specifically see the role of the Northern Cape, Western Cape, Eastern Cape coming into play. So from our premise, where we see is as a Western SADC unity, we can volumize, because for the mere reason then is that will give us a global advantage to enter. Firstly, to be a global preferred supplier at price range, and we know the ethos of volumes of 2 rand to a kilogram has been thrown around, and $1 to a kilogram, America intimidating the world. But this is definitely what we are looking at, but also knowing that we've got in the SADC domain already 2.5 million tons of need, and we need to convert all the iron ore, the manganese, the platinum mines that exist in petrochemical fraternities that need to convert, and they need feedstock. And this hydrogen supply will address that 30% of the energy community globally, but also in SADC to address us, to make us globally competitive.
What sectors within the Northern Cape are most conducive for green hydrogen?
Green hydrogen is quite important. It's the production of the green hydrogen is pertinent for us. Right. It's pertinent for us for the export nation and for the trade balances for Namibia, South Africa, Botswana, but it's also our enabler to participate in the global village of new economy. We know that from 2030 we have the carbon border adjustment mechanism. So we have to then basically utilize firstly our generating capacity of green hydrogen. 60% of that input is renewable energy. So wind and solar becomes your biggest input, and that's our competitive advantage as a region, a Western SADC region. Furthermore, our coastal access, because you need large volumes of water, so desalination, and then our port infrastructure. And very importantly, though, that is only where it starts. Where it goes further is that we've got the share of manganese, iron ore, etc., not to be repetitive. But the moment we use that energy to produce reduced iron ore, start producing battery inputs in terms of the manganese and the platinum, that's the real benefit that we see. So the sector, utilizing the energy sector, the renewable, creating the basic infrastructure, the construction sector then, but also using it then for the mineral beneficiation is where the real benefit is.
Speak to us, Hendrik, about the infrastructure and support systems that are in place, to facilitate the development of green hydrogen projects in the Northern Cape, and also how NCEDA, assists potential investors.
Absolutely. I think very important is, firstly, when you start looking at green hydrogen, we've been speaking about renewable energies a lot. So grid infrastructure is one of those major facets, and therefore we're looking at a tremendous expansion. Once again, it's not just a Northern Cape expansion, it's a regional interface of expansion. Right. So grid infrastructure is an important ally for us. The next very important ally for us in infrastructure to enable is port infrastructure. So as the Northern Cape expanding 20 kilometers south of the Orange River, the Buchu Bay Deep Port Harbour, a very exciting project, a dedicated green port. And then we combine it furthermore with special economic zones. In May this year, we've basically then also in South Africa declared the Namakwa Special Economic Zone with Vedanta, with their SEZ smelter, with their SEZ smelter in that facility, and we're turning that green. So industrial hubs is very important, grid infrastructure. And the next exciting phase that we are looking at as a region to get to that bulk and final mile is the pipeline strategy. I was privileged to be also in May with James, Minister Tom, and ourselves then, and we signed in the Netherlands then for the shared pipeline strategy, connecting these pipeline or these green hydrogen consumption hubs. So by offering that to the investors, we know that it becomes worth their while.
Right.
We've got the Northern Cape Master Plan. We've just concluded with Sasol a very good pre-feasibility study that went to the London Stock Exchange, raised tremendous funding going towards that investment. So clearly the messaging is working globally.
Fantastic. I'll touch just in a bit on what you spoke about today. Of course, you are one of the invited speakers at the Green Hydrogen, the Global African Hydrogen Summit currently taking place. But before that, talk to us about how NCEDA, envisions regional cooperation in Southern Africa to advance, GH development. Absolutely.
Once again, to reiterate, it's not a single source solution. Volume is going to be the name of the game.
Right.
And it's not just the volume to produce the green hydrogen. The more we can aggregate green hydrogen, we can reduce the price margins, we can reduce the handling fees, we can reduce the number of stopovers of ships. So if we look at the maritime and the transport sectors, that will be our benefit. So as a region, by creating those consolidated and aggregated hubs is very important. But furthermore, for instance, in the Northern Cape, we need for our 40 gig electrolyzer facility at Buchu Bay, 9,700 wind turbines, 160 million solar panels. And I know you do need it just north of the river. Back at home, we know the same need is there at the end of the day.
Right.
So this gives us a competitive advantage to go to the likes of a Siemens, a ThyssenKrupp, a Nel Group, mention them the globe over and say, this is our consumption for the next 20 years and more. Can we please look at an assembly facility, a factory for the Western SADC corridor? Those panels must be erected at the end of the day. I just mentioned it's times 2, times 3. What I've mentioned, one project that we are looking at, Enetrac and Hive share what we'll be sharing with Sasol on the southern side of the border. Where do we establish that human capital development? And those projects, we all know the cyclical nature of renewable energy construction, solar panels, etc., 6-8 months, next project. Are we going to have, today I stated critically in the sessions that bureaucrats and borders knows passports, but money, energy and investment don't know any borders. And I think that labor regime, that assembly regime, that manufacturing regime, so we're going to have to start looking at how do we look at the renewable side? How do we start looking at the piping infrastructure? How do we look at the human capital that we share? How do we look at the local enterprise skills? Because will we really have a drilling company south of the border and one north of the border?
Right.
We're going to have one on serving both sides of the border. So from an enterprise premise, I also see that. And then consolidating iron ore. Buchu Bay is earmarked for manganese and iron ore handling. And And in the same vein, Lüderitz, I mean, we also got a huge feed line going towards Lüderitz. How do we start complementing one another to take that manganese to battery technology on behalf? Because all of us will have inner battery limits. So I foresee from an infrastructure side, from an industrialization side, from a human capital side, this partnership will be tremendous for us to foster.
Yeah. Well, as one of the invited guests and speakers at the Global African Hydrogen Summit, just briefly tell us what you touched on in your speech and in your presentation.
Definitely what we were looking at from the speech and the presentation side was firstly is the issue of partnership. I think it was so important that we reiterate our commitment as SADC partners to one another. And this is inclusive Angola, Mozambique to the opposite side, and then raking in what we see in Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Namibia. And very important for us, I think the biggest catalyst, the nucleus that we could discuss, was to say between Namibia and looking at the 3 hydrogen valleys in the north, the center, and then in the southern part, and if we bring together the northwestern side of South Africa and the southwestern side of Namibia, we form 800 kilometers of pure industrial joy, whereby we have energy, we have mineral resources, we have harbor, we have grid infrastructure that can make us a new mineral industrial energy hub for the world. Now, looking at that, we furthermore, as the Northern Cape, have signed a twinning agreement with the Quarus region. We've signed the pipeline strategy with James and the team and Minister Tom and them. We've also gone as the Northern Cape and signed with the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, because we know then we can rake in the automotive industry, the shipping industry, and that consolidation will really unlock the Western SADC side. But no one will be left behind, because the moment we activate that, we create a corridor to Botswana, to a southern part of Angola and Zimbabwe, and that unlocking by energy, logistics, and then global infrastructure is what we see that will be the change. And this has been the essence today of discussions, is how do we reincorporate? How do we get dust flying, if we may say, in concrete out there? And how do we synergize those investments to create that volume? Because volume will be the key message. And how do we utilize the large South African industrial base that's already a consumption monster to reach financial close for businesses, meaning to say big projects that we have north and south of the border, and to start building the industry. And by the time 2030, say, when we stabilize, how do we transport hydrogen? Will we transport it as ammonia, hydrogen, or liquid hydrogen?
Right.
We know we've got an industry that can immediately compete, and that synergy is what really excites us.
Exciting times ahead for Africa indeed. We appreciate your time this evening and being with us. Please do enjoy the rest of your stay in Namibia and, of course, the remaining days of the Global African Hydrogen Summit.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nina.